To talk more about this, we're joined by Dr. Dylan Blacquiere, a stroke neurologist at the University of Ottawa. Dr. Blacquiere, people were quick to sadly criticize John Fetterman during the debate in Pennsylvania last night, but how difficult is the recovery from a stroke?
So every recovery from stroke is going to depend upon a lot of factors. For instance, where in the brain the stroke has affected you, what particular functions of the brain have been affected by that, how large the stroke is, how a person's health is otherwise, for example. So without commenting on this specific example, every single person is going to be a little bit different as they recover. It's tricky as well, too, especially in cases such as this, where it's so immediately apparent for somebody who's having speech disturbance, say, or somebody who has overt weakness. So one side of their face is drooping or one arm is not moving. Those can be quite visible and those can be quite dramatic. So I think it's tricky in a sense because we know that a person can recover, especially if there's a lot of other factors in their favor. We know that sometimes it's not necessarily going to recover all the way so that it's not immediately noticeable. We use a particular score to grade recovery, and one of the marks of that is somebody still might have overt signs of a stroke, but they're able to do all of the things that they could do before the stroke, for example. So it's a very, very individualized process.
So how might these attacks on Fetterman impact stroke survivors around the world? And on the flip side, what message is Fetterman sending by continuing on with his campaign?
So again, it'd be difficult to comment, for example, whether his physicians have told him particular advice for activities he ought to do or ought not to do as he recovers from that. But we know for people recovering from stroke that we oftentimes advise them to start to gradually return to the things that you do, that you did before, that you did meaningful, provided that you're able to do so, typically under the guidance of healthcare providers such as physiotherapists, occupational therapists. The message we want to send is that there is recovery possible from stroke. Obviously, the best way to protect oneself is not to have a stroke in the first place. But if you do have one, it's not necessarily a given that the particular problems you have as a result of that stroke are going to stay with you forever. There is recovery possible. So I would like to think that the message is, at least in the broadest sense, that you can recover to the point that you can do things even like rejoin public life or take on political office, depending upon what functions are available as a result of the stroke itself.
And before we let you go, a quick reminder for our viewers, can you break down the common signs and symptoms of a stroke and what to do?
Absolutely. So the common ones being that if a person experiences weakness of their face or difficulty moving their arm or sudden difficulty with their speech, it's time to call 911. And the acronym we'll talk about is FAST for that example. FAST, face, arm, speech, time to call 911. And that's the best thing a person can do if they think that they're having a stroke. Don't wait. Don't see if it peters out or anything to that effect. Call and get help right away.
Thank you so much for your input tonight.
Thank you for having me.